Welcome back. We do want to apologize for the transmission hitch, but we are going on with business and talking about a topic that someone asked last year, where we had a story on young entrepreneurs, and one of you, I can't remember the name, but one of the viewers did ask us to talk about technology for seamless business, and we do listen. So tonight in studio, I am joined by Patrick LUKASA. Thank you so much for joining us. He is the director of ODOO Kenya. I suspect I haven't pronounced your name right. You can correct me on air. Sure. What's the right pronunciation?
LUKASA.
LUKASA. Yes. LUKASA. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. I want us to talk about small businesses, medium and small medium enterprises in Kenya. We see that when it comes to adopting technology and even just going digital, it's still very low in Kenya. What could be causing this? What are the challenges that perhaps businesses are facing?
Sure. First, thanks for having me. When it comes to digital adoption, we talk about many things. If you look at WhatsApp, for example, mobile payment, in Kenya we are doing really amazing. But then there is more to it. If you talk about what in the industry of, for example, ERP software, then we know that there is a lot to do. For example, a lot of companies, as you said, are not using these modern tools to manage their businesses on a daily basis. But it has to do mostly with awareness. People do not know that they can use this system, which are affordable and which can really transform the way they do business in an efficient way. Another reason is mostly the price of it, or the cost. People do think that it can be overly priced, which is not always the case. And one of the last things that I see is simply people also resisting to adopt the modernity. Some people may think that, okay, if we adopt it, we may lose our job, or it will be too transparent for us to be able to play around with the figures and so on. So all of this is contributing to SMEs not really adopting these tools, which are actually helping them to become more efficient.
Yes, and you've just mentioned a little bit about also pricing.
Yes.
And a lot of them are priced out of the ERP system. What remedies do we have for that? And I'd also love to hear your experience.
Sure. When it comes to pricing, we should look at it as an investment. An SME will typically invest into a plant to do production. When they do so, they look at it as an investment instead of a cost. But it's true that most ERP systems are usually traditionally made for big companies. But what makes the majority of the economy is those small companies, the small duka at the corner, the small production plant, and so on. So in terms of pricing, what really helps companies is to use and pay only what is useful for you. So when it comes to ERP systems, it's really important to work with a system that is modular, which means it is made as a sort of bricks that you can put together, or you can use independently only for what you need. You don't need to buy the whole package and only use 10%.
Yes.
That already can help with the pricing. Another thing that can really help is to make sure that you use something that can be utilized over the internet in the cloud. That way you don't need to invest into machinery or equipment. You can connect to it via your phone, via any device. It can be an Android device, Windows device, and so on. You can use all of the machines that you have. You don't need to have an industrial machine for that. So no extra equipment for it. These two are usually what will help with the pricing. If I want to talk just a little bit about what we are offering,
yes,
we have a pricing which is really as you go. You pay only for the number of people that you are empowering, because that is where we add value. If you are in a small company of 2 persons and all of the 2 are using the system, so it's the full company that is working in an efficient way. But if you have hundreds of employees and all of the 100 are empowered, that's why we are charging per the number of people that are using the system, and it is scalable, it is controllable, and it's also applies to small companies and big companies alike.
One of the interesting things about systems is you come to realize that a system is only as good as the people using it.
Totally.
How do we then prepare our staff and to even make sure, you mentioned about just using 10% of the system. How does one go about it?
It's true, you can have the best car if you don't know how to drive it, it's useless.
Yes.
So to prepare the staff for a good usage of the system, there are two things I believe that you can do. The first one is to pick a system that is user-friendly. You can give any amount of training. If the system is complex, like a cockpit of a plane, it will be difficult.
Yes.
So what we are doing is we provide people with a tool that is really intuitive. An example is, I'm pretty sure you didn't have to read the manual, the user guide of WhatsApp, did you? We want our tool to be as simple as that.
Wow.
Obviously, it's a business tool, so it will have a level of complexity, but we want people to acquire the tool today, start using it the next day. An SME survive based on the time. They are really time sensitive. They don't want to purchase something today, install it for 1 year, and only use it the next year.
Yes.
So the tool in itself will help with the adoption. The other thing, which is really important, is what we call the change management. So people, especially business owners, can have the great idea of implementing an ERP tool, but then they face resistance from that accountant that has been there for 20 years, simply because they don't want to start learning something again, or they see that it's going to disrupt the way they've been doing business. So you want to educate people to the benefits of this new tool, this new technology, why is it important, and how can it make your life enjoyable. For example, we work with a lot of accountants. If you don't know what accounting is, you can think it's a boring job, just encoding some data, pulling some reports and so on. But it doesn't have to be that boring. It can be really enjoyable.
Yes.
We offer tools that allow you to automate a maximum of repetitive work so that you can focus on gaining really good insights, seeing how your turnover is evolving, comparing it with the previous years and so on. So even accountants can really enjoy the job which used to be very manual.
Yes. Yeah. How do you convince, and you've used very interesting terms, even talking about accounting, that it doesn't have to be manual and so boring. But how do you interest businesses to actually buy a system, yet they're thinking, you know, they're just all about making profit, and what is it in for them? And it might even just make work a bit harder for them because staff has to be trained, especially for small businesses. How do you then show them that it will benefit their businesses and perhaps even increase their profit margin?
Totally. The key is to talk about the return on investment. As I said, you can look at it in two ways. Either you look at it as an expense, in which case I just pay and that's it, or as an investment. I put something, I put time, effort and money, but in return I'm getting more than what I have invested in. And the good news is that we work a lot with business owners. They really understand the concept of return on investment. So what we simply do is to understand their needs, their requirements. We work like doctors. We try to see, okay, what are you facing in terms of challenges? How are you coping with it? Where can we add value? Once we understand that, we are in a position to advise people, to convince them on, okay, this can help you, for example, fix the bottleneck that you are having. If you are spending 2 hours a day to reconcile your invoices, and how much are you spending every month? But just imagine if you can automate this, how much time can you free that you can invest into thinking about your strategy, expanding into new territories and so on. And this sometimes can make the difference between surviving or going bankrupt the next day. Every company wants to work in an efficient way, and today we are empowering companies with tools that allow them not only to survive, but even to compete on the global stage with our counterparts in Asia or in Latin America and so on, from here in Nairobi.
One of the things that also people fear when it comes to technology is cyber threats. And also, how can a business also secure its data? What solutions do you have?
Yeah, first, the threats are many. They can be linked to the system or also to the human. The biggest threat is the human. Because when it comes to the system, we have all of the tried and tested mechanism. For example, if you go on your e-citizen account, you want to log in, you key in a password, and you get an OTP to verify. This is what we call multi-factor authentication. So we have a set of tools to make sure that we prevent hacking and all of the threats. But then the other part, which is huge, is to work with your team on the processes, on the training, so that they are aware of what are the risks. If I have a secure team, a secure tool, but I go with my laptop and I leave it at the cafe next door without locking it, someone can sneak into it, right? So we work both on the tool, but also on the processes to educate people as to what are the best practices to secure and safeguard your information, your data, and so on.
Yes. And looking at the age groups in business, in Kenya, we've been so big on young entrepreneurs getting into business. And looking at those age groups, who's likely, in your experience, going to embrace technology?
You're totally right. On this one, it's not cliche, it's real. We see that the younger people embrace technology really easily. They even go further. They can just go on the website, purchase a new tool without even talking to someone. When you go into people who are more senior, you really need to convince them. You can sit with them face to face, explain. And even after all of that, they will say, okay, wait, I'll go talk to my son or my friend so that I get advice before I can go ahead.
And when it comes to also just government services that have really gone digital, is there a way that government and the private sector can work seamlessly?
Sure. First, here in Kenya, the government has done a great job in digitizing its services to citizens and businesses alike. But there is still more that we can do. There are a lot of things that the government and the private sector can do, for example, in terms of public-private partnerships. Here in Kenya, for example, to develop e-identification, to facilitate the electronic payments and so on. When it comes to the world of ERP, because we are talking about it, we have some practical use cases that the government has been doing. If you know, here in Kenya as a business, if you are charging VAT, you need to not only collect the VAT, but also do a filing of that VAT in real time. This is what we call the e-TIMS. So the e-TIMS allows people who have, for example, an ERP system to do a real-time or near real-time filing or declaration of the VAT with the web portal of the KRA in real time. That's one example. If we go elsewhere, you have systems like Sidonia, which is made for customs. If you are in the logistic industry and you import, for example, cars for Japan, in some countries, there is a way to have total transparency as to what was the purchase price, what is the custom taxes you need to pay, all of that in a system. So it can integrate with your system, but also with the one of the government. But where I see things going in the future, we are in what we call the API, I would say, era, in which you can have your system and you connect it to the system of the government, to the system of your suppliers, so that you can have a data flow that is seamless and that doesn't require the input of a human. And this will allow us to work more efficiently, work at any time. You can send information to the web portal of the government without having to talk to someone.
Yes, but is there a fear that also that means businesses will have to be more transparent and that there will be less corruption then, especially when it comes to taxation and...
It is true. It is a real fear. But as you know, if you talk about taxation, they say tulipe ushuru tujitegemee, which is a good thing. If we just go side notes, if you don't pay your taxes, you will pay it in another way, either because you don't get the public services that you could have received if you were paying your taxes and so on. Transparency is good. It is a legal thing. So yes, it can be a problem if you are not working as per the rules. Yes. But it is the reality of companies.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Patrick, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Cynthia, for having me.
Well, that's it from us, from me and the rest of the team. We do want to wish you a very good night.